Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. To start this tutorial, take a marginal line at the top of your pattern right here. Now from this line, I am going to be taking all my vertical measurements. Now take your shoulder to shoulder measurements divided by 2 and add ½ inch to that for shoulder to sleeve joining. Now take 1 inch downwards. This is going to be for your shoulder slant. Now from this 1 inch, I am going to take my armhole measurement, which is 8.5 inches, and I would connect the line. Now from the folded edge of my pattern, I am going to take 3 inches, which is standard for connecting your shoulder slant. Now from this point, take your shoulder to waist, which is 17 inches, and take the length you want for your blouse and also hemming allowance. Now connect all the necessary lines. Now I am just going to add label to this. I would label my bust point. This line is for my under bust. Now this is my waist and this is my length. Now start to take your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Mine is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 inches, and start taking it from your bust point all the way down to your hemming allowance and connect your line. Now from my bust point, I would go upwards by 1 inch and come downwards by 1 inch. This is to avoid friction around the bust area. Now go upwards by 1 inch and go downwards by 1 inch. Just like I explained, it's to avoid friction around the bust area. Now I will take my bust circumference divided by 4, and that is the mark right there. Now next thing you're going to do is find the midpoint of your armhole. Now go inwards by 1/2 inch. Now connect your armhole curve. Now from this point, follow your armhole curve line and measure all the way up to the shoulder. Now for me, what I have is 9.5 inches, and I will fold my tape rule like this to meet the 9.5 inches, and I have 4.25. Now I am going to place my tape rule from the highest point of my shoulder downwards, and I am going to take the 4.25 right there. Now from this point, I am going to connect my line all the way to meet the 4.25. Now on each side of this, I am going to take ½ inch on both sides so as to place my darts. Now from here, connect your dart to the ½ inch on one side, and from here connect your dart to the other side. Now because of this dart, I would add it to my bust measurements. Remember, I added 1 inch for that. I will place that to my bust, and also 1.5 inches for seam allowance. Now from this point right here, you're going to go upwards by 1 inch. You should slant it upwards slightly. Now take that 1 inch to your bust seam allowance, and this is going to be your new armhole line. Now come down to your under bust and take 1 inch on each side. Down to your waist, take 1 inch on each side. Now from your hip line, go upwards by 2 inches and connect your line. Now next thing you need to do is to take your under bust circumference. Mine is 8.5. Now take your 2 inches for your darts. Now take 1.5 inches for your seam allowance. Now also come down to your waist and take your waist circumference divided by 4. And my waist is same as my under bust, so I will just take the same measurement I took on my under bust right on my waist. Now down to your hip line, take your hip circumference divided by 4. Take your 1 inch for seam allowance, 1.5 inches please for seam allowance. And now just connect your lines. Now from your hemming allowance, you can go inwards by 5 inches. And from your hip line, you can go downwards by 1 inch. And connect your line. This is not compulsory. It is for if you want a curvy look at the bottom of your blouse. Now I am going to be making a scoop neckline for my pattern. Now I am using 5 inches for the width of my neckline. Now I am going to be using 7 inches for the length of this neckline. Now connect your neckline lines. Now using my hand, I am going to draw in my neckline curve. And now it's time to cut out this pattern. You can see I've cut out these other dots. Now I would cut out this other dot and follow the armhole. It's as simple as this. And make sure when you're cutting out the dots, you leave no sharp edges. Make sure you curve in your hands. And your pattern is ready. I am going to show you how to cut this on your fabric in a very simple and easy way. Now I am going to be sharing with you another way to place your darts on your pattern for a princess dart blouse. This method is best for if you want your bust to protrude and have more shape. Now as you can see, I have taken all my measurements and I will dive right into the pattern making. Now measure your armhole curve and take whatever you have and divide it by 2, just like we did for the first one. And from your shoulder line, place your mark right there. Now from your bust points, go upwards by 1 inch and also go downwards by 1 inch. Now connect this line to this and make sure you curve it out and you have no sharp edges. From your under bust, take 1/2 inch on both sides. Now on your waistline, take 1/2 inch on both sides. Now from your hip line, go upwards by 2 inches. And next thing you will do is to connect your dot lines. Now you can go on and add that to your armhole curve, just like we did for the first one. It's not a must to leave it like this. Now we're just going to go in and take our body measurements. Now come down to the waist and take your waist circumference divided by 4 and place it right there. Now also remember you took that there and place it back right there. Now for this kind of method, you do not add any measurements around your underbust area. So because of that, you can use 3 inches for seam allowance on your waist area or 2 inches, but I will be using 1.5 inches. Now I will take my bust seam allowance and connect the line. Come down to my hip. I'll take my hip circumference divided by 4 and 1.5 inches for seam allowance, and I'll connect the line. Now I am going to be using 3.5 for width and 3 inches for the neckline. And once I am done, I will connect the lines and also the curve. Now connect this to this. This is going to be your new armhole curve. And now we're going to curve this pattern out. And yes, you can also use your normal basic bodice pattern to make a princess dart. This is my basic bodice pattern, and all you have to do is start taking the measurements of your armhole just like we have been doing all along, and mark what you have right there, and now just connect it to your dart like this. And there you go, you have your princess dart. And you can totally transform this into a 6 pieces blouse or peplum. I am going to be showing you how to do that very soon. Just stick around. Now just connect your line all the way down to the hem, and there you go. That is all you have to do to have your princess dart on your basic bodice pattern. Now making the back part is really easy. Now first thing you need to do is to get your zipper seam allowance placed at the back pattern. Now next thing you need to do is to take your shoulder to shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus ½ inch. Now take 1 inch down for your shoulder's length and take 3 inches. Now connect your shoulder's length to the 3 inches. Now from here, I will take my 8.5 inches for my armhole depth. I would connect all the lines. Now next thing I will do is to take my shoulder to my waist and also my shoulder to my blouse length and also hemming allowance. Now I will take my bust circumference divided by 4, and I will take 1 inch for seam allowance. Now I will come down to my waist and take my waist circumference divided by 4. Now instead of 1 inch, I would use 1.5 inches because that is what I used while drafting my front pattern. Now down to my waist, I will take 1.5 inches also for my seam allowance. Now I just took my hip divided by 4 and also 1.5 inches for seam allowance. Now I will be taking my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 inches divided by 2, and that is 4, and that is what I marked all the way up. Now I am going to be taking ½ inch at both sides on my waist for my dart, and I'll come down by 2 inches from my shoulder. Now I would also place my nipple to nipple measurements right there. Now I would connect my dart lines. Now from your hip line, go upwards by 2 inches and connect your dart line. Now we're going to return all the dart allowance back to our measurements. Now I have 1 inch right there at the waist and I'll add it back. Now whatever I have here, I would add it back to my bust and I will just connect the line. Now find the midpoint of your armhole depth. Now connect it to your bust line like that. Now you can go inwards by 5 inches and go downwards by 1 inch and connect your length curve. And now it's time to cut this pattern out. It's best to add your neckline if you are a beginner before cutting this out, but either ways I am still going to show you how to add your neckline. Now to place your neckline, place this together and I'll be taking 3.5 inches in width and 3 inches in length for the neckline. Now you're going to be cutting 2 of this and 2 of this. Now I showed you 3 ways to cut the front. I will be showing you 2 ways to cut the back. Now this is your basic bodice back pattern. Now all you have to do is take your armhole measurement just like we have been doing for the front. Now what you will do is place what you got right there. Now just connect it from this to this, and that is all. Now I will be using the neckline width of 5 inches so as to match with my scoop neckline for the front, and I will be using the length of 3 inches. Now here is the thing, you can actually leave this pattern like this if you don't want a 6 pieces feel for your pattern. You can just go on and cut this on your fabric as it is. Now if you want a 6 pieces something going on, you can just go on and connect the bottom part and continue cutting like this. Now make sure you cut 2 for this and 2 for this. Now here is how you cut on your fabric. Fold your fabric in half. Now place your center front in half. Now as you can see, both sides are the same, so I will be using one to cut for the both. That means I will be cutting 2 pieces and 1 piece for the center front. Now I will place it like this and I will add 1/2 inch seam allowance here all the way down. I would add no seam allowance at the sides because there are already seam allowances added to it. Now place your center front in half and make sure the folded edge of your pattern meets the folded edge of your fabric. Now add 1/2 inch all the way from here all the way down as you cut. Now fold your fabric in half. Now we're going to be cutting the back pattern. Now remember, we're going to be cutting 2 of each, which makes up the back. Now I am going to cut this out. And just like we've been doing for the front, we're also going to leave 1/2 inch at the sides of the back. Do fold your fabric in half again. And now we're going to be cutting the center back of our pattern. Now make sure the zipper part joins the folded edge of your fabric, and now we are going to cut this out. Just like we have been doing, you're going to leave 1/2 inch all the way down to here. And of course, remember to open up your center back because you're going to be adding your zipper to it. Now this is how you add your interfacing. I am using soft wadding. In my country, it is called soft wadding. Now this is how I add it. I would add the interfacing down to the waist length of the side parts, and I will make sure it's about half of the fabric. And I would also do the same for the other side of the front. And for the center front, this is how to pad it. You pad it to the waist length, as you can see. Now you just cut all the way around it. Now place the good sides of your front from this sharp edge and start joining all the way to the bottom by 1/2 inch. Now you're going to do very much the same thing on the other side. Join the sides to the center front and join by 1/2 inch. And you're going to do the same for the back. Join the backs together by 1/2 inch. And at this point, you can go in and add your zipper. We are just testing this pattern. This is not the right way to sew this because normally you're supposed to use lining to turn everything out. So now join the good sides of your front and back together and join the shoulders together and also the sides together. And we are done, and this is what the testing looks like.